You're looking good. You who are 3 steps above average. I'm Kendall Bryan Hunter. I'm author of this book. Consider My Servant Job. It's a commentary on the book of Job in the Old Testament. You may be needing this right now, depending upon where you're at in life, what's going on. Hopefully, it can help you find answers, and if not find answers, at least find some comfort and sanity when you're going through certain trials, depending on whatever those may be for you personally. So, give my book a look, and I'm confident you'll find what you're looking for. So today's theme is: Are we winning the war in Iran? I said it right, not Iraq. But first, let me do some breaking news. If you remember the Sisters in Zion, they were on X. They abandoned X, went to Blue Sky like Mark Hamill did, and I'll talk about Mark Hamill a little bit later. But they posted this on X, and they said this: watching what's going on in Tennessee and other parts of the world, I wanted to come back and remind y'all. I called it America, and it's spelled Amerikka. I called it America will always pivot towards racism. This is hashtag America. So, Sisters in Zion. Now, you remember when you first heard about them, Xander Vrains and Tammuz Smith, and you saw them, Sisters in Zion, and you thought, okay, I can get behind this. I'm 100% supportive of these two women. I want to have a black voice, converts. Let's bring them into the fold and give them a platform. You felt that, didn't you? I certainly did. Look what's happened to them. And Deseret Book still sells 4 products from them. They're still platformed by Deseret Book, calling America KKKA. We're racist, and this is what you're buying from Deseret Book. This is what Deseret Book is selling. How do you feel about that? What are these two ladies going to do when we have the 5th Sunday lesson on America this month? Not the Constitution, Declaration of Independence. What's it going to be like when you show up to their ward? What are they going to say? What's the bishop going to allow them to say? Will there be any self-censorship, self-control? How are you preparing for this? What do you do when your fellow members of the ward start saying that the America is a slave state colonized by white male colonizers? What do you, if that's said in your Sunday school class or your church meeting? How do you respond to that? Do you keep quiet? Do you speak up? So think about that, what your response would be. Here's a hint. Wasn't Cortez a European colonizer? And how do you feel about the Aztecs performing human sacrifices? Because if Europeans hadn't come here, that'd still be going on, wouldn't it? Well, let's move on to the lead story. Are we winning the war in Iran? So when you look at things, are we winning? Are we losing? How are you feeling about things? What's your news sources? What's your grid, or how you're filtering things? Remember when this war started, this action started, the left immediately started parroting, "Forever war." Does it feel like a forever war from what you're looking at? Is it a forever war? Is it a trench warfare? Is it a stalemate? How'd you answer that question? Well, for me, it's shifted. It's not a war. It's just an aggressive embargo. So think about this. Is this a war, or is this just an aggressive embargo? Because we are blowing up stuff. At any point, we could have nuked Tehran, and that would have solved a lot of problems, but we chose not to do that. We've always chose to restrain ourselves after seeing what happened in Japan. I want you to think about something. I'm sorry, I'm having a pollen problem. Pollen's really bad here in Utah, and it's affecting my lungs, so bear with me. And if you're struggling with it, I feel the exact same thing you're feeling. You remember in the Book of Mormon, I can pretend let me grab my copy. Hey, look at my messy bedroom. I never tire of saying this. I keep things low budgets. I don't have a sponsor, so I can speak my mind. It's just you, me, and the truth, and I hope I'm conveying authenticity, keeping this low budget. When you say I'm just doing this in an ugly bedroom, hopefully you can trust me that I'm not putting on a production or selling bobbleheads or t-shirts or anything. It's just you, me, and the truth. But the Book of Mormon, this is a nice replica of the 1830 original edition, which as you can tell, I'm slowly reading. In the Book of Mormon, Book of Helaman, chapter 11, there's this war among the Nephites, the Lamanites, and the Gadianton robbers. And it's sort of like this stalemate. It's just getting nowhere. It's violent and it's hurting the people. So the prophet Nephi prays and he does this interesting prayer. He asks Heavenly Father, okay, replace this war with a famine. And first of all, just stop and think about it. Is that ethical? Is that Christ-like to pray for a famine, or specifically to pray to replace a war with a famine? And why is that better? If people are dying either way, isn't famine, they're dying of starvation rather than a decapitation? So think about it. How do you feel about that? Well, whatever you think about this, the Lord answers his prayer. And so you get this famine, it goes on, and pretty soon the danger of starvation outweighs the danger of war. And because of this common environmental concern, remember, it's a form of some of these environmentalism points in the Book of Mormon. So the famine actually solves a problem. They stop fighting, and they eradicate the Gadianton robbers. So think about what we're doing. What Trump is doing, you're trying to reliving Vietnam. There's a certain generation that the Vietnam War is just scorched into their psyche. And no amount of neuroplasticity will break this thought process. Every war is Vietnam for some reason. They can't break out of the box. But Trump he's going outside the box. So there's no boots on the ground. We're doing airstrikes. Who knows what Cyber Command and Space Command is doing right now in Iran. But it's really avoiding a ground war in Asia. Ground war in Asia. Trump isn't a genius like Elon Musk. He's not Einstein. He's not Isaac Newton. He's not Marie Curie, Pierre Curie. Not Buckaroo Banzai. But he is wily. He's shrewd. He's astute, shrewd, and wily. And he's redefining how we're doing things. We're just going to do a blockade and just starve them out. Isn't that similar to what you just read in the Book of Mormon? We just talked about. Instead of a war, let's do a famine. Is that what embargo is, a form of famine? I'm not saying that Trump's a crypto member of the church. I'm not saying this is the optimal solution. But just think about how you feel about things. The body count telethon that always goes on with a war. That's actually started in the Vietnam War because they were televising things. And you turn your, Walter Cronkite would report the body count telethon, but that's not going on right now. In fact, the 4-star who's part of this Central Command, he's actually doing a really good job of communicating. I follow him on Facebook. So think about this: are we winning? Are we losing? And what lessons from the Book of Mormon? What lessons from the Book of Mormon are you getting about how to do things, differently? Captain Moroni. News blips. Spirit Air is out of business, and Elizabeth Warren is still in office. Moving on, Judge Faruqi, first Muslim judge in the area, he apologized to President Donald Trump's alleged assassin, Mr. X. We don't say his name here. Yamak Shema. May his name be obliterated. But the judge is apologizing. So does him being Muslim have anything to do with this? Or is this something? Is the judge being a humanitarian by apologizing to the alleged assassin for his mistreatment? And if this happened in any Islamic state, let's say Iran or Saudi Arabia, would we get the same treatment? Is there a double standard going on here? Can you compartmentalize your brain to the point where you're accepting double standards? Utah news. This is thicker and thicker. The Utah Supreme Court Justice resigns amid probe into an alleged relationship with redistricting attorney. Diane Hagan, so she's the judge, beauty bias, blonde, blue eyes, looks kind of petite from the headshots I'm seeing. Former Justice Diane Hagan's ex-husband filed a complaint alleging she sent inappropriate text to attorney David Raymond. Hagan was accused by her former husband of sending inappropriate text messages to an attorney who helped challenge a Republican-friendly map that maintained 4 red congressional seats in Utah. David Raymond, who worked on behalf of progressive voting rights groups in the case, was named as a lawyer and complained for attorney Hagan's husband, submitted to Chief Justice Matthew Durant, the Judicial Conduct Commission, according to local outlet KSL. And I'm actually quoting this from Fox News. So what happened is it's an election year, and a lot of election maps are being challenged and redrawn. Louisiana. That's what the Sisters in Zion were talking about at the beginning of this. So a lot of maps are being during an election year. Does that feel fair? Is that just we're changing the rules to game the system instead of having a fair election? It looks like we're having a fair election, but we're redrawing the maps. Gerrymandering. Remember that word? Not a salamander, but a gerrymander. So this year what happened is we had a certain map drawn by the districting committee. But the League of Women Voters and Incorrect Name of Church, Mormon Women for Ethical Government, so 2 women organizations, set a map, and then Judge, not Justice, but Judge Diana Gibson. Remember, there's a similarity in the name, so keep them, Hagan and Gibson. Judge Diana Gibson approved the map. So a female judge approved a map drawn by 2 women's organizations. In the result, I can't vote for Dr. Mike Kennedy, my current representative in the upcoming election, because of this redistricting. So, what's up with the woman? And secondly, does this invalidate the Supreme Court's decision? We have clear improprieties between a lawyer and a justice on the state Supreme Court. Doesn't that invalidate that? Do we need to kick this up to the state or the to SCOTUS, to the U.S. Supreme Court? Remember, what's going on are these 2 groups. The map that we're using for this election was not drawn by Utah citizens. It was drawn by outside advocacy groups. What's the Book of Mormon again? So what is the Book of Mormon? What is the Book of Mormon? The Book of Mormon. What does the Book of Mormon teach about judges and lawyers? And now, behold, I say unto you that the foundation of the destruction of this people is beginning to be laid by the unrighteousness of your lawyers and your judges. Book of Mormon, Alma, chapter 10, verse 27. No further comment. Spencer Pratt, he's running for mayor of Los Angeles. Basically, his point is he lived in Pacific Palisades. His house burnt down, so he wants revenge. Feels kind of appropriate. So he has these AI videos. It's interesting, the use of artificial intelligence for videos now, because you can make them really quick, cheap, because you don't have to pay actors. Filming is a very complex process, but with AI, you do it in a matter of seconds. The messaging is, let's have a Pratt summer. It certainly has the energy. I heard partially heard it. He was on Joe Rogan a couple of days ago. So Joe Rogan seemed sympathetic. Now, Joe Rogan, he's very good at what he does, because when you watch him, it feels like you're kind of talking to your coworker. He's not a brainiac. What's like Donald Trump? He's astute. He's shrewd. He's wily. And you get this gut feeling that, he's a guy you can trust. He's like, you have a neighbor who's a plumber or an auto mechanic, and you kind of trust the person because they're not overly sophisticated. They're going to give you a straight, not the straight dope. That's not a good thing, but the straight information. My bishop works construction, so of course I trust him because he's just not one of these sophisticated academician who's trying to impress people. Because if you don't do construction right, the house collapses and you get sued. So you gotta use your brain. His logo is a phoenix, and it looks like the Hunger Games logo. That's really good. You're going to associate that with the Hunger's Game. The odds are never in our favor. In his webpage, it's called Mayor Pratt. Now that's a persuasion technique called thinking past the sale. He's already calling himself the mayor, so it seems as if he's already the mayor. So he's got the persuasion game going. He has the energy, and Joe Rogan seems to like him, and I'm not going to go in there and get drunk or smoke dope with Joe Rogan, but he comes across as a guy that you can trust, and that's what it is. Like with me, I'll sit there and I'll quote Wittgenstein or Socrates, and so come across being intellectual. Joe Rogan doesn't do this. He has sort of this gut instinct. Now, Polymarket. Now, I'm quoting Polymarket. First of all, I do not endorse gambling. I denounce gambling. For finance, get your $1,000 emergency fund, get out of debt, set up a money market account, fund your 401k. For stocks, it's Standard & Poor's 500 index fund. I'm just reporting this, so no gambling. Karen Bass is at 48%, Spencer Pratt's at 30%, Nithya Raman is at 20%, and Ray Huang is at 2.1%. So he's clearly second, but if the other two bottom people drop out, where are the votes going to go? Now, here's a tactic. Back in February 2008, Mitt Romney was running, and so you had Romney, McCain, and Mike Huckabee during the West Virginia caucus. So this is February 2008. In a pivotal moment, supporters of John McCain and Ron Paul switched their support to Mike Huckabee on the second ballot to ensure that Huckabee beat Romney. This is a strategic move by McCain backers to block Romney from gaining momentum. So what happened is Romney was winning, the primary, because in a primary you get a stack of candidates. So what happened is they said, okay, let's switch it. Let's McCain and Paul ceded their votes to Huckabee to knock Mitt Romney out. Because they didn't do this, Romney would have won. And this is the same tactic that can go on, is that the lesser candidates give their votes to the winning candidates to knock Pratt out, and that's a potentiality. So it's a precarious situation, and we need to stop the insanity. I'm from Northern California, but it's the same state, and these are human beings who are suffering, our fellow citizens and fellow Californianos. California, as Schwarzenegger used to say. So the bottom line is this: if you can spare $5, Pratt would love it. $5, $1, a one-time contribution, and you just may save the Golden State. So that's news. America 250. What memorabilia are you buying for your children to pass on? Artifacts, historical artifacts. When I was a kid, we had this. Let me get this up here. This is on my phone. We had this. This was a commemorative plate that I think my dad flew a private plane out to Boston. When he came back, he picked up this plate. My mom had it up on the wall. So see, it's the Liberty Bell, Independence Hall, Minuteman, or Red Coat, Boston Tea Party. And this plate, I'd sit there and I'd look at it and read it, and that would help teach me about American history. For example, I have this hat. United States, 1776, 2026. 250th anniversary. Now, as a little kid, they're doing the Bicentennial. That's easy to say. Semi-quincentennial. It's 1776, 1976. The numbers lined up, so it's a little bit off. So it's not as obvious as it was back when I was a kid, but certainly it's something to celebrate, something to cheer. And what are you going to do when you have the naysayers in your church start trash-talking America, contrary to the counsel of the First Presidency and the Prophet? So that's America 250. Let me pause. I think my lungs I'm near the end, or I'm at the culture comment section. 19 minutes, 38 seconds into this. Culture comments. May the 4th, 2026. It was a funeral. It wasn't a celebration. It was a funeral. I I mentioned as a kid in 1976 we had the Bicentennial. Next year we had three movies come out: The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, Star Wars, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Did not see Sinbad. I only saw it when I was older, but definitely my parents took us to Star Wars and to Close Encounters. I think Close Encounters that came out in December. So I saw Close Encounters at the local Alameda Cinema, and I remember coming home and writing on a piece of paper, the hand signs that use that, and then hiding because I wanted to remember them for some reason. So it really, that movie energized me. Of course, Star Wars, that was absolutely transformational. I remember my dad, we saw it in a drive-in. So we got up there, and the drive-in theater is the Oakland Coliseum drive-in, which is now a perpetual flea market. So they're able to make the finances work, because normally they could build condos there and make a lot more money. But it's still there. It's still in operation. It's one of the few drivers. It's not a drive-in anymore, but they have the old movie house, and I had this little playground next to it. I remember us playing on the playground, getting ready for the sunset to start the movie. So we went in the car, and I fell asleep. Remember, I was 6 years old at the time. I fell asleep right after C-3PO says I'm melting. And so the second time I saw Star Wars, what's all this stuff? I don't remember this stuff at the end of the movie because I slept through it. So Star Wars, big Star Wars. You see this? This is the original thermos that I had as a kid. Yeah, look, I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt right now. So I saw Star Wars, saw it in a drive-in. I remember they had the the swinging across the pit. I remember my mom asked my dad or something about that. It looked like they made the arm out of telephone plastic. And later my dad said, that's when Star Wars was the ability to make movies exceeded his ability to imagine. It was very visual. In fact, after we saw Star Wars, we'd watch TVs, rerun TV. This is before cable and streaming. So we'd turn on TV and they'd show a movie. And so they'd begin with the old 20th Century Fox intro. Every time we do this to our brothers, we'd watch a movie and they'd start doing 20th Century Fox. Hey, look, they're showing Star Wars on TV. So I fell for the merchandising. We had to have the lunchbox Star Wars, and then the Empire Strike Back one had Yoda on it. No, Mom got rid of this. For some reason, she saved this, so got it. We had, my dad, I don't know where my dad got this, but we had the pre-release novelization. Oh, don't turn sideways. Just when I need you to get. Of Star Wars. See, it looks like it's backwards now. Can I get this to go backwards? So we had this novelization as a kid. And that's when I read, and to be honest with you, I didn't like this because the post-movie ones had all the pictures in it, so I didn't take good care of it, but I think we still have it. So that's the one I saw, and my dad had it, and he read it later. He picked up Splinter of the Mind's Eye. I didn't read that one until I was a little bit later. Later we got the Han Solo. I didn't have the first one, Han Solo at Star's End, but I had Han Solo's Revenge and Han Solo and the Lost Legacy. And then later with The Empire Strikes Back, I kind of fell out of Star Wars when I hit Return of the Jedi. This is more of an aging things. Mostly it was the trading cards, because Star Wars is very visual. Now Lucas, when he films, it's like a documentary. Spielberg is very fluid with the camera. If you remember Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade at the beginning, where they have the young Indiana Jones, they're talking with the boys, they're looking down in this pit, and they're talking, and so they're talking with each other, and the camera pans in, so we're looking down at the pit, and then it pulls back, and they'll go back to the people talking. Spielberg is very fluid with that. And so when you see Revenge of the Sith, Spielberg was an uncredited director. He did help lining the shots, setting up the shops with some parts of Return or Revenge of the Sith. And so when you watch it, it's a funny mix, because Lucas is a documentary, so he leaves the camera there and people move in and out of the shots. You see people doing it, whereas Spielberg is more ornate, so it's funny. But getting back to the trading cards, is you had the visual images, and for some reason, is a way to recapture the movie before we had VHS or DVDs or streamings. So the first ones was the blue ones. Then you had, I think it was the red ones, the green ones. They had yellow ones. I think maybe they had orange ones. So it was blue, red, yellow, and then green. I may be confusing the order, but just kept taking these shots and stills from it. Yeah, that was a lot of money into that. The action figures. Like for me, Star Wars, it's when I hit Empire Strikes Back, I was a bit aging out. And when I saw Return of the Jedi, I felt like there's some recycling, like Jabba the Hutt's thing that was redoing of Cantina, and then having the Death Star again, that was just recycling stuff that I used previously. And as kind of was able to notice this, and it lost some energy for me. Later, I come to appreciate it, the trilogy, but I had the Darth Vader carrying case. They had two cases, a C-3PO1 and Darth Vader. So I had Darth Vader. So you had the stickers you put up there, and they had slots for all the fixtures, and they had this little box of them on so you could put all the guns in. First Star Wars action figure was a Tusken Raider. The last one I can't remember, but I remember going to Mervin's, buying it, and I was with my mom, and I got it, and I just, all of a sudden, okay, I owned every Star Wars action figure, and my mom was supportive of it. It's like stamp collecting. No, I wasn't breaking windows or robbing cars. I was buying stuff. But it was an interesting feeling. I got it, and it was like just absolutely nothing. You sit there, you covet these toys, you get what you covet, and there's just, absolutely just like, blowing your nose or flipping on a light switch or rolling over in bed. Just nothing exciting. It's interesting because in Tolstoy and War and Peace, he does a similar thing. One of the characters is really infatuated with Napoleon. So what happens to this character who's Russian, just absolutely loves Napoleon, just enchanted by him. He gets wounded on a battlefield, and what happens is he has a chance to meet Napoleon. So he has two events that happen there. One is he's wounded on the battlefield, and he's lying in there and just sort of bleeding and recovering. He looks up at the sky, and he has this spiritual epiphany about the vastness of the universe. And wow, this gets a sense of his place in the cosmos. His life clicks together. Then he has a chance to meet Napoleon, and he's just really let down. It is the story. You meet your hero, and you just lose everything. You see how human and imperfect they are. That's actually a healthy thing to happen to you, is meeting your hero, and so you really realize how imperfect people are. So you don't have these illusions about things. You're able to function better once you. Disillusioned can be a good thing or a bad thing. But when you lose your illusions, you're actually seeing things properly. And, so same thing. That was a very good lesson to learn early on about coveting and people just wanting stuff. Said, I wanted every action figure from Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. I got it. And it was just no different than putting on a pair of socks. Just that significant. I definitely was a Yoda-aholic. I had the puffet and the mask, and that's actually a good thing because Yoda's a archetype of wisdom. So you get a little kid gravitating towards wisdom. That's a very good thing. And also judging people by their size, do or do not. That's back with the classic. I can talk a little bit about canonicity right now. What is or isn't canon? Continuity is always an issue with me. Back to the Future. No, this sucker's electrical. Back to the Future 3. Oh, we need to get gasoline. Yeah, that bothers me. I like J. Michael Straczynski's Babylon 5 because he thought it through and he paid attention to the detail. So there's not a lot of continuity errors, but that you see that with the Star Trek: The Next Generation movies. Let's give Data the emotion chip. Next film, Data shut off the emotion chip. Okay, so continuity. So the pre-Disney one you had was called G-Canon, and that's the original films, the 3, later the 6 movies, statements by George Lucas. They have what's called T-Canon or television canon, which is a little bit lower. That's Star Wars: The Clone Wars. The C canon was continuity canon, consisting of all the recent works, older works of Star Wars, the books, the comics, the games, cartoons like the Ewoks cartoon and the Droids cartoon, which ran on the late 80s. You have the S canon, which is secondary canon, available but to be used or ignored as needed by the authors. I'm quoting from Wikipedia. Older works, such as much of the original Marvel Star Wars comics, I never read those. In the afterlife, I'd like to read those. Because, early on, they just didn't take stuff seriously. For example, in Splinter of the Mind's Eye, Luke fights Darth Vader, and Princess Leia has Force at the end. And really, see, Splinter of the Mind's Eye is Lucas. No one knew where Star Wars was going to go. In fact, Lucas thought that Close Encounters would do better, so they made this famous bet that Lucas lost. But they didn't pay attention to continuity, and so it just creates all these problems. Even now, when I read the one for what we call Episode 4, the original Star Wars, it has that article from Journal of the Whills, and that was just never pursued, and that bothered me. So, Journal of the Whills. So, we had the old continuity. Let's see. D-canon was Detour's canon, used for material hailing from canceled animated TV series. N-canon was non-canon what-if stories. Marvel has the what-if with the Watcher, and then they're actually kind of fun stories because they're like the Treehouse of Horror on The Simpsons. They can play around with stuff, but they don't have to deal with the after effects of a bad decision. It's just kind of there, and we understand it. And you have Star Wars Holiday Special canon, which I'll call Sons of Perdition. And you have what happened is when Disney bought it, anything that happened after Return of the Jedi, the most importantly Timothy Zahn's Heir of the Empire, Thrawn, that was decanonized and called Legends. So the original I think they call it the Han Solo Adventures, and they have the Han Solo trilogy. The first trilogy is the one I had as a kid. Then you have the second one, which is a little bit more expanded, but it does integrate the first Han Solo trilogy. I think they're called the Han Solo Adventures. So they're able to double dip. So it's called Legends. It's still publish them, and then they have all the Disney continuity with the sequel trilogy with Rey, etc. Of course, it's double dipping, but they're able to keep both fans happy. And for me personally, Legends is canon and canon is Legends. So I just reversed to canon, so I'm stuck with Timothy Zahn. In my mind, that's what happened, is Heir to the Empire. So I do that so I don't have to deal with the sludge, the DEI woke politically correct messaging that we're getting in the stuff, the Acolyte, Star Trek, was it Starfleet Academy? It's all going the same direction. It's funny because that Doctor Who, they're just going the same direction, and it's having the exact same result across three franchises: Star Wars, Star Trek, and then Doctor Who. Doctor Who being a longer running. I'm not a Whovian, but I am Doctor Who aware. Pertwee is the one I like. Grew up with. The problem I had with Doctor Who is that they're actually a mini-series. They weren't episodic. So I'd sit there and I'd see an episode, and you'd have to sit there and schedule it to see all the episodes in a row. So at some point, I'm going to sit down and just sit through a mini series of it. But that's the hardest thing. It just wasn't self-contained. You'd have to sit there, and it just got a little meandering for me. Especially a point about messaging. You have the form and the content of messaging. So the form is actually doing the messaging, and then the content is what's the substance of the messaging. I don't think messaging is bad. It's just that the content of the messaging was bad. Going from Kobayashi Maru to I think I swallowed my comm badge. That's a Wile E. Coyote fall off a cliff disaster. I am curious about seeing Coyote versus Acme, as you can tell, but it's just not the messaging, because Rod Serling had messaging. The original series had messaging. You remember the Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. That's where you have the people white and black on either side. It's really odd. It's really kind of silly looking that you'd have people develop that way. but it just worked. It was very effective with what they were doing at the time. Having a Uhura, a black woman, and a Russian on the bridge of the Enterprise. That was a good mess. That was messaging in the good sense. But we're getting bad messaging right now, so it's not so much messaging of that. So 340. Let me hustle. Mark Hamill's post. He did a post a couple of days ago. Had this image of Donald Trump dead. When did Mark Hamill become a Death Eater? So I did not see the original post. Just like earlier with President Trump's post, Planet of the Apes. It was a Lion King post a couple of months ago. Didn't see the original post. I saw a repost of it. I went to Blue Sky. So Hamill, to his credit, he retracted it. He left the text of the original post, and he had the updated text. So I call that repentance. I forgive him. And he operated within the 3-day grace period I give people. When someone does something outrageous, I give them 3 days to pull it and click down and clarify or apologize. He complied with that. But just the whole sum up is Star Wars is dead, and I just can't believe it. I think just remember the feelings I had as a little kid in our brown Dodge Aspen at the drive-in theater, seeing this for the first time. Versus now what happened to it. It's interesting because it's just one thing. It's just bad writing. You get a good writer in there, they could revive it. Get Timothy, if they're to take the heir to the empire, do that. No one have any problem, and not mess around with it. There'd be no problem. A little bit like with Steven Spielberg with what's the musical? The Bernstein. The Jets. Oh, what's that musical he recently? I can't remember the title of it because I'm not into musicals. But he did that, and he threw in the transgender character in there. Oh, West Side Story. I'm not into musicals, except How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. That's a good musical. That's a really funny one. How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. If you don't like musicals, give that one a chance. West Side Story. How he threw that character, it was just completely unnecessary. You just don't tweak around with stuff. Don't mess with it. Just take the original, respect the audience, respect the source text. Use your messaging for your own property, and things will work out perfectly. Now, just a disclaimer, I own stock in Paramount. I own stock in Disney, and I vote accordingly to how they're screwing up Star Wars and Star Trek. Here we are, 37. I got to hurry up. Life, some pointers. Here's some personal finances. A couple of weeks ago, I showed up to work and had this girl, and she had her sleeve rolled up. She's showing off a new tattoo she got. At the same time, I noticed that the eyepiece on her glasses was missing. So her glasses were broken, and she was spending her money on getting a new tattoo. Even people who are tattoo aficionados would tell you, no, fix your glasses first, get your tattoo later. Okay, make sure your priorities are correct. Don't not go to the dentist because you want to get another piercing on your eyebrow or your nose, okay? Just have some common sense with it. E-devotional. Sorry that. Yes, I'm bothered how they're screwing up Star Wars. E-devotional. General conference, there's a talk called Remember by Elder Chi Hong Sam Wong. So Elder Sam, he's from Hong Kong, and this is actually a third conference talk. It's talking about remembering. Book of Mormon again. And I just want to think about remembering our ability to remember, and also the TikTok effect upon memory, the TikTok effect on neuroplasticity. You have these really short videos, and we're raising up a generation of people who are addicted to watching short videos. They're sitting there, and you see them on the bus scrolling. And the same thing with Twitter. Originally 140 characters, now 280s. If you're rich, you can buy more, and that's why you want you to be rich. So having short videos and short tweets, that's good because you have line upon line, precept upon precept, incremental learning. That's how learning works. It's not all at once. So having short things is actually helpful, and it's a good option. If you can get things to the point like bumper stickers, that's helpful with learning. Brevity is the soul of wit, as Shakespeare said. But what happens, we're developing this habituation to process things in short amounts. Neuroplasticity again. Your brain is being rewired to process things in short amounts. And you're losing your attention span to the point where someone's reading the sacrament prayer and they can zone out in the middle because they have such a short attention span. They're zoning out in the middle of the sacrament prayer. And so they can't honor that covenant because they're just zipping out. Now think about short attention span while you're going through the endowment. If you're processing things in 30-second segments, sitting through the endowment is going to be a torture to you. Sitting through a lesson is going to be torture to you. And how's that going to affect your testimony if you can't process the endowment, or you have such a short attention span you can't process the sacrament prayer? Now we're shifting to 25-minute Sunday School Priesthood Relief Society lessons. So that's an interesting counter move. That would certainly help the problem we have with people who have very short attention spans. What's that going to do to their testimony? Because they're just not going to be able to focus on something long-term and work through. Will you be able to read the Book of Mormon? You have such a short attention span, and what does that do to your testimony? How does it affect your faith? How does it affect your ability to exercise faith? And think about the countermeasures to people who have very short attention spans. What's a countermeasure for that? I don't have a solid answer, so think about that. Well, 41 minutes. That's the passing scene. Seen with the eyes of faith. And read the Book of Mormon. Thank you.